Good morning, Trailside Church. Man, so excited that you are with us on this beautiful day as we celebrate Sabbath Sunday here at our church. And so we've had questions like, what is Sabbath Sunday? Why do you do it? How does that work? So what we basically have done is we have taken this Sunday to say to our teams, thank you, and we want to give you rest. And there's a lot of people who are traveling and dealing with holidays and going from one family to another, and our staff and our team as well. And so we always take this Sunday not to not meet as we're meeting right now, not to not have church as we're celebrating right now with some vision and a short sermon today, but to just give everything a bit of a breath, because we are getting into what I like to call the second season for the church. And so the last 4 months have been absolutely crazy, jam-packed with stuff and people and events and things. And our team has worked tirelessly, which is why they're here. They're awesome, and we all work hard. But in this 4 months of planning and getting into the fall and into Christmas season, and then we get through Christmas season, and we basically have about a week before we get right back into it, which coming up in the first week of February, we'll have our anniversary celebration, our Vision Sunday, which we're pumped for. And then we have our marriage retreat just a few weeks after that. And then a few weeks after that, we have Easter. And so we're lining up for this second 4-month process, if you will, kind of the second season of the church calendar. And so we're excited. I'm thankful that you're joining here online this morning with me, and that we're getting an opportunity to share just a little bit about where we've been, where we're going, and to celebrate how good God has been. And so with that, Merry Christmas. I hope you had an incredible Christmas. I know we had phenomenal time Christmas Eve for our 3 services on the 24th. And so I hope that you've been celebrating from there, and you've carried that heart in through Christmas, and that you're now getting to see family and celebrate and eat food, and you're probably well rested and had more food and more cookies and more anything than you've ever thought you could. But I'm stoked that you're here with us. And I hope you have a very Merry New Year as well. 2026 is a number that it's always weird the first few weeks, right? When you start writing that down, and maybe you're writing checks or dating things or whatever it might be. And that old 2025 that took so long to get used to is now 2026. And in just a couple days, we're going to stay up early or stay up late, and watch a ball drop. Or some of you guys are probably going to just stick it on YouTube at 9 o'clock and celebrate and go to bed at 9:30, and I totally get that as well. But we are excited about 2026, and that offers us a time of introspection, a chance to kind of look back and see what God has done through Trailside Church and through your time and your efforts and your serving and your giving and your everything else that you've put into this past year. I feel like I'm starting to say this every year now, but I really do believe this, that 2025, as we look back as a church family, was our best year ever. We had dozens of baptisms and baby dedications and new families and discipleship that happened. Our ministries are growing, and so I ran some numbers just to kind of see, as I've said before, we're not numbers driven, we're numbers informed, but it helps us kind of plan for the future and see what God's doing and make sure that we're stewarding people well and taking care of families in this community. And in 2024, our total church attendance on Sunday was 5,421 times that people were walked in this building. And yes, that's, one person counting, hopefully 40 or 50 times. But what blew my mind was, as we ran those same numbers for 2025, we had 7,426 people come to church on Sunday at Trailside Church in 2025. That's a 36.98% growth. That blew my mind. I knew that we had grown and that God was blessing our church and bringing people, but it absolutely blew my mind to look and consider all that God is doing just on Sundays. And we'll talk about the rest of the weeks and everything else in there as well. But to see that level of growth, meaning that people are coming and staying and being a part of this family and seeing what God is doing here at Trailside, man, it is the most humbling and exciting thing as a pastor. Every single person who walks in this room is prayed for every single week. We pray over chairs sometimes. We pray as a team, as a staff. I pray every Sunday. You might even see me as we're getting ready or during worship. I sit down and I pray, and and I ask God to move in people's hearts and to move in my own as well, to get me out of the way. And so every single person that's walked in these doors in the last year has been prayed for, and we've had the opportunity to pray for over 7,400 people this year. We had our marriage retreat, actually our third marriage retreat this past year, where 28 couples were a part of that. And here's a quick plug. Sign up for next year. You can do a $100 deposit and pay it up to February 20th. But we have a totally new, totally redone marriage retreat. It's going to be phenomenal. Still in Asheville, same place. You can be close, but a little far away. And I'm just telling you, after doing some mega planning with the team, the staff, it is going to be an absolute blast. And even more than that, it's going to be impactful to your marriage and to your family and to the marriages and families around you. And so there's great opportunity there. I want to make sure you get on that. It is worth your time. So make sure you're there. And if you didn't get a marriage retreat gift for Christmas, then hey, it's a great thing to do for the new year. You can say, hey, we're going to start out 2026 with purpose in our marriage and our relationship, and join us on the 27th, 28th of February. When we talk about serving our community, which is another big push that we have here at Trailside, we served 114 families this year just at Parents' Night Out, which is twice as many as we served in 2024. And Christine and Jamie and their team that led Parents' Night Out did a phenomenal job this year. It absolutely blew my mind to see how dedicated and purposeful and excellent they brought everything together, and the way they brought everything together. And man, I'm telling you, I'm sure 2026 will be just as fun. I know my kids had a blast, and now I'll only have one who will be able to be into Parents' Night Out, because we'll have two that are actually in middle and high school this year, which is absolutely crazy to me. Our Middle Plus group continues to grow and do great things and cook phenomenal food. You guys are awesome. Thank you for feeding me and our staff regularly. Our men's ministry continued with 9 months of men's breakfast, where I don't have that number. I forgot to check that number, but hundreds of guys came and heard phenomenal speakers. Some of the best stuff that I've ever heard at men's breakfast was this year, and I know we've already got February and March with 2 guys who are going to bring the thunder and challenge us. And guys, just make it a point, men. You want to be here for men's breakfast the first Saturday of the month, 8 a.m. It is so worth your time. And the guys that we have lined up are just going to be absolutely incredible. You're going to want to be there for that as well. Our women's ministry continues to kill it as well with our recent Christmas tea and everything throughout the year. Every event you guys plan, I just see tons of people and tons of food, and I love the heart that I see in that as well. And our student ministry also continues to grow under Pastor Austin's leadership. He is doing a phenomenal job, and it absolutely is incredible to watch. As many of you know, I was in student ministry before we planted the church, and so student ministry is important. And Austin has done a great job with his team and growing his team and bringing new leaders in as well to love those students through some big moments in culture and some real big hardships that I'm just glad I didn't have to deal with 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I was a student. But we're thankful for him as well. We gave more money away and more time away to people in our community in missions and benevolence than we've ever given as a church. It was, I think, over $14,000, which is absolutely incredible, of ways that we actually took some of the abundant generosity you've shown, and we've helped plant churches. We've given to needs in our community. We've supported families. It's been an amazing thing to see and to watch as our benevolence, actually went over our benevolence budget a little bit, but it's okay, we got it worked out. But that is the heart of our church. We had an incredible picnic in July. We had an amazing time at our Low Country Boil. We had more people than ever. Many of you guys, maybe this is something we should talk about. I had to sit in that dunk tank for a long time. There were a lot of y'all who were ready to dunk me in that dunk tank, and I just want to tell you, if we need to hash some stuff out, let's go get a coffee. You don't have to dunk me in a tank to get aggression, but hey, if you enjoyed it, we enjoyed it, and we gave a ton of money away because of that as well to the local food bank, and so that's amazing. We had 46 kids adopted in the Angel Tree during the legacy time, and we would have had more. We had multiple of you guys who said, hey, can I have another child to adopt, or hey, I didn't get one, and we just ran out. Quite honestly, when I went back and asked them if they had more, they said no. We've had 104. I think they had 144 total, And so we were responsible for 30% or 40% of those kids being adopted for this Christmas. And that is just so incredible. Our budget is growing for next year, and we're excited about that. It is in line with what we received in your incredible giving this past year. And so we have a certain way that we divulge that and that we move and make sure that we're doing that well and stewarding well. And so I'm excited to share that with you, which will be in our year-end letter that you'll receive here in just a couple weeks. Our legacy offering, we actually really felt purposefully led by God to approach the number of $30,000 and to take some big risks and say, hey, this is what we really want to do and what we feel called to do. And man, did you guys answer. We exceeded the legacy offering by 10%, which means we're getting to do more and give more. And I'm just so blown away. And honestly, I'm so humbled and thankful for this church and all that you've done to stand by us and to buy into this community and the mission that we have. It's been an amazing, amazing thing. Another big celebration is we brought Pastor Jaden on full-time, our very first full-time worship pastor. And what a blessing he has been. I'm sure you've seen the team is growing. We have people who are in training and learning, and he is excellent in so many ways. And so that's been a huge addition that's made Sundays just even that much better. I had a friend who came recently and hadn't been in a little while, in a couple of years, and he came back and said, man, it's a lot different here, and that guy is awesome. And I said, you know what? And looked at Jaden. I said, that guy is awesome. And so we're stoked that Pastor Jaden's with us. We had 137 people this year serve at least one time on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, and that is at a formal capacity. That doesn't even include the people who are leading discipleship groups and women's leadership and men's ministry and our elders who are in elders meetings. And it's absolutely amazing to me to see so many of you giving so much of yourself to make this place special, because that is what makes this place special. And that results in over 3,000 hours of serving in 2025. And for you guys who are here for our first VBS, which is another huge celebration, I know it probably feels like all 3,000 of those hours were just in VBS, but we're so thankful for you guys. And that's a dream, a vision that was handed to us by Kim and by Pastor Austin. And so I was a little nervous, but they said, Pastor Sean, we've got this. This is what we need to be doing. And so we said yes, and the elders said yes. And I'm telling you what, it was an absolute rock show. I was amazed to see what all you did. And with all that, I believe that we are poised for a huge, incredible 2026. And I hope that you're planning on being a part of that here. The elders and I spent time working through and evaluating and rewriting our bylaws to make them improved so that it reflected more of who we are as a church and our leadership structure. And you'll hear more about that in just a couple weeks. But if you can't wait, just give me a shout. I'd love to talk to you more about that. And some of that will be in our end of year report as well. Our calendar is nailing down really well. We've got the marriage retreat, like I've already said, February 27th and 28th. Get signed up. Get signed up. Husbands, bring your wives. It'll be worth your time. Wives, encourage your husbands. It'll be worth your time. It's going to be so, so good. Get your babysitters now. Make it happen. So marriage retreat's coming. We have Fifth Sundays planned, and we have a huge focus that you'll hear soon that's pointing toward discipleship. We had our first big group, small group this year, and we've got purposeful discipleship happening in all realms, from all the way with our students, as you've probably seen, down to our kids ministry. Even if you're a parent, you've seen the new band app that Kim is using to help you and to help equip you and facilitate you to be the first place of discipleship for your kids. Our student ministry is continuing. They've always had strong discipleship measures. We have a men's group that I lead and a women's group that's being led by a few incredible ladies as well, purposeful discipleship. And even those groups are expanding and moving into new groups as well. So pumped about that. You'll hear more about that soon. I'm just, honestly, I could talk for hours about this church and about all that God has done, all that he continues to do, the people he brings in, and the staff that is here giving so much of their time, so much of their efforts. And it's just amazing. And I'm just so humbled and blown away to see how God moves in this church and what he's done in this community. And I'm just honored to be a part of it. There's no way to say it. There's not enough words. I love you guys. I'm honored by all of you and just the time that you'll spend with us and investing in this place. It's an amazing thing. And listen, just like any church, we're going to miss some things, right? We'll have great celebrations. We'll nail some stuff down. It'll be the best ever. And we'll miss some things here and there. We'll have our bad days and our mistakes, but we'll have our great days and our victories. And that's the beauty of relationship, isn't it? That's the beauty of how this all works. And so today, I hope that you'll join me in taking a healthy step into 2026, not forgetting 2025, celebrating 25, celebrating the good, the bad, the easy, the ugly, the victories, the hardships. But as we take a purposeful step into 2026, I want to invite you in to step in deeper. I want to help us pursue what it is that's being built for what's next. I know we talk all the time. Many of you ask about a new building and a new location. And as I'm sitting in this sanctuary that's empty right now, just looking at the chairs alone, it seems wild that we're beginning to fill these up at 2 services. And so we're trying to figure out what that looks like. But what we know we're called to do is to be faithful, to be obedient, to not take steps that would hinder the mission of our church, that would hold us back from doing what God's called us to do, but to be prepared and ready for when it is time to take that step so that we can take it with confidence and obedience. What we do know is that because God's been faithful behind us in this last 25 and even the 8 years before that, we can boldly step into what's ahead of us as well. Not driven by hype, because I know anyone can hype things up and can kind of get the adrenaline going and emotions, but instead that we would be anchored in hope. So where hype drives us up and inflates us, we want to be anchored in this idea of hope, of what's to come. Most of us do this same thing that everyone else does at the end of the year. We look behind us. We look introspectively into what we experience. We look back and say, man, remember this? And we check photos and we talk about memories. And I hope that you've done that this year and that you'll do it in the next couple of days as well, because that reminds us of where we've been. It reminds us of what God has brought us through. We celebrate wins and losses, and sometimes we focus too much on the losses. We gotta get a little more optimistic. We talk about things we're proud of, relationships that grew, another year of marriage, or our children growing up and hitting the next milestone. And we talk about things we'd rather forget. Whether I know many of us had loss this year and struggled with the reality of humanity and sickness and hardship and disease. And we celebrate also some wins out of that as well, where God has healed so many people, where we have new babies being born in the next couple months within our church. Things that excite us and also things that are challenging and were hard. But what I want to point us to is that there is a danger that we can honor the past without living in it. We can look at the past and remember it and see it for growth, but if we just stick in that and we don't step forward, there's a danger that we'll get stuck. And what I promise to you is that our leaders, our staff, our elders, we are purposefully not going to allow ourselves to get stuck. We're going to push forward. In Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 11 and 12, this is what God says when he's talking about the promised land. And obviously we're not stepping into necessarily the promised land, but we'll see how this goes. He says, the land that you are going over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water by the rain from heaven, a land that the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. The same God who watches over us this year, the same care he had for us in this last year, he's already present in the new year as well. He already knows what is to come. He's already built purpose and plan. And that's a wild consideration for me when I think about it. We live in a very linear day to day to day to day, week to week to week, month to month to month, year to year to year. But God, in being who he is outside the bounds of that. And so he has already pivoted our hearts toward what he already has planned and purposed for the next year. And we have a chance to live in that and be obedient in that, or to stick in how it used to be, or to lament everything that might be upcoming, to get lost in the sauce of the year-to-year switch. But what we see here is that God is telling the people he's already prepared this land, this promised land, And this is back when they had just gotten out of Egypt. So they weren't going to walk right into the promised land. In fact, they don't do that until Joshua, a few books later, many years later, generations later. But what we have to remember is that God being outside of time doesn't mean that he's forgotten or bypassed or closed the chapter on one thing, but it means he's operating within all of that at the same time. He sees the future. He's written the future. He knows what's to come. And so we get the opportunity to believe him when he says that he loves us, has a plan for our church, has a plan for your life, for your family, has a plan for every move you're going to make. That he sees it. It says that his eyes are always upon that land. And he watches over it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. From the beginning of time to the end of the time. However long he has written those things, that his eyes are on us, are on the prize that is us, that he purchased, that he has given himself for, that because of that, he cares. His investment of himself, that he greatly and deeply cares. And as we flip the script from 25 to 26, I hope that you know that God's plan is good, that he is watching over you, that he hasn't forgotten you, and that what happened in 25, some of that may continue in 26, but that doesn't mean that's what 2026 will be. And we'll have this same thought moving into 2027, but the reality is that God's eyes never move from you. Because what we also know is that God was faithful this past year, wasn't he? You're here, right? Psalm 103 encourages us. It says, forget not all his benefits. Faith doesn't ignore hardship. In fact, there's a lot of scripture that talks about walking through hardship. No, what faith does is it recognizes the faithfulness within that hardship, within those joys as well, with the hills and the valleys. I think it's purposeful that God talks about that in Deuteronomy, where he says this land has hills and valleys. It further represents that the people who were outside of Egypt were going to walk through harder moments, that they hadn't quite gotten there. And then if you go through biblical history, you know when they get to the promised land, that doesn't exactly fix everything. We talked about this in the book of Daniel. The temples that are built and burned and destroyed, and God's people moving, all waiting for the perfection of the Christ to be born. It doesn't ignore hardship. Some of your prayers were answered just like you wanted them to be, just like you hoped they would be. Some of them were answered in ways you maybe did not want them to be, but answered nonetheless. And some weren't answered at all. I know there are some prayers that we are still praying. We're praying a big prayer, even for this week in our own family, as we're traveling down to MUSC with my wife to have her have some pretty intense testing to figure out what's going on in her body. And we've been praying for years for answers. And we don't know what those answers will be. But it doesn't mean that God isn't faithful in the midst of it. And so also I'd ask you to pray for us on New Year's Eve. That's when we'll be at MUSC trying to figure out what's happening with her body. But the reality is, no matter if prayers were answered or not, you're still here. We're still standing. We're still moving forward. And if God brought you through this year, then he can be trusted with the next. If God has shown himself to be trustworthy and kind in 2025, then how much more so will he also be in 2026? And with that, we know God is already in the new year. Book of Isaiah in chapter 43, verse 19, God tells the people, he says, behold, I'm doing a new thing. And while we can get into the exegetical part of that and it'll take forever, I want us to focus on this idea that God is not waiting for January 1st in order to start working, because that future is not unknown to him. But he tells his people anyways, hey, this thing I'm doing is coming. I've already been working. I've already been putting things in place. I've already been mapping out the plan, and it is good. It is to prosper, to take care of you, and I'm doing it. So the invitation is for us to step forward with confidence. Not confidence that we're going to be okay, or that we'll figure it out, or that it might be hard, it might be easy, whatever it might be. It might be full of blessing. It might be full of hardship. No, the confidence comes from obedience. And we have this choice stepping into the new year. We can either be confident from obedience, or we can be fearful, which will lead to control. And every time I've seen that, I know me, that I've tried to control something, typically it doesn't go as it should. Typically, I'll hold back the blessings of God of what he wants to do, and I'll reframe it in my own control, and it'll fail, or it'll be so much harder than it has to be. And then finally I'll relent and submit it to God and be like, God, I don't know what to do with this anymore. You do. Would you please do something? And then the answer comes, and I'm like, wow, that would have been a lot easier if I just would have listened, if I just would have trusted. But that's where obedience comes from. It comes from trust. When we have confident trust that God is going to do what he says he's going to do and will not fail, then we can be obedient. It's the only way that we can be obedient in all the things that he tells us to do. From things like do not worry about tomorrow, or take heart when you meet trial and tribulation, or go this way and go here and do this thing, shift this career, big things like that, or whether it's he's saying, hey, this is the year you dive in with your church and give. This is the year that you serve. This is the year that I've prepared you to take this step into some sort of ministry capacity, or to take a new risk and step for work and jobs, which I know that's happening for a lot of folks in our congregation as well, that it's the preparation that he has given where you now can, with confident obedience, step into the thing, the promise that God has given you. But fear drives control, and control drives us further from what it is God wants to do. And so we have to choose. Will we step into 2026 with faithful obedience and trust of who he is, or try to control what may come through fear? See, this popular thing for the new year is that the world makes resolutions. This year's going to be different. And the average depth of that resolution is less than 2 weeks. They fail because it's not about confidence and trust. It's about fear of what if I don't do these things. The church does not make resolutions. The church makes commitments. And that's demonstrated purely by our posture. Our posture matters more than our plans. Proverbs 16 tells us, commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. We don't need the full map of what God is going to do this year. In all honesty, I really genuinely believe that our proclivity to control and to try to reframe and make sure things happen where we want to and how we want them to, if we had the full map, it probably wouldn't be helpful for us, because we would just be very fearful of one day on the calendar of what was to come, and then we would actually not follow through and be faithful and obedient. We would spend from day one until day whatever just being terrified of what might come. Or it would be something fantastic and we would be ready to celebrate it, and we'll miss all the blessings God has from day one until that day as well. No, instead of feeling like we need the full map in order to trust his plans, he tells us just to commit our work to him and the plans will be established. He will be faithful to help us follow through, to pick us up, to dust us off, and to lead us. Because that's how God moves. He moves through surrendered, obedient, and available hearts. In the sports world, they say the best ability is availability. It doesn't do any good whether you're absent or hurt or whatever if there's a spot that needs filled. And so the best ability is the availability. And that's how God moves. But we've got to take some pressure off ourselves. He doesn't demand us to be perfect. He just asks us to participate. He just asks us, be obedient and watch, right? Be obedient to this and watch. See what I will do. In fact, it gets overused, I think, in a lot of ways. But there's a verse in Malachi where God says, test me in this. And it's talking about giving. And he says, and do this, test me in it. It's the only time he says test me. And watch that I will not blow you away with my provision. And this is not a sermon about that. It's not what I'm saying. But for us to test him in obedience. It's not perfection he's looking for. It's not sacrifice he's looking for. It's obedient, faithful hearts. And so as we expectantly take this next step into 2026 in just a few days, my exhortation to you is let us be bent on starting fresh. Let's have purpose to celebrate all of 2025, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the in-between. But let's take a minute and just breathe in and calm our hearts, knowing that God has brought you to this very point. Whether you're listening on the road or sitting on your couch at home or in your office working and you're going, why am I here? This is ridiculous. Nobody gets work done for an orphan day. If you know, you know. But that God has brought you to this place in his mercy. And he's brought us here so that we might be ready to receive what it is that he wants to do. He's got great plans for us all, for this church, for me, for you, for your family. And I want to make sure that for me, I'm not blinded by my own emotions and control to receive them fully. So church, join me. Join me and step in, and let's have a phenomenal 2026. Let's come to this date next year and be blown away by the goodness of God, by seeing the blessings and the hope that you never could have thought or planned for, just by your obedience and your confident trust. So how do we respond? How do we work through this? I'm going to ask 3 questions for you to consider today. The first is this: what do I need to leave behind in 2025? I love the Auld Lang Syne song because it encourages us to put 2025 away, to start new, start fresh. Let old bygones be bygones. And I know that's somewhat impossible to some respect, right? But to not let that control us anymore. What do you need to leave behind in 2025? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it a lack of mercy? Or is it a schedule that made you so tired? Is it the competitiveness that has stolen life within you? Is it an addiction or a fear? Is it something in your life that you say in 2025, that's no longer a part of who I am? The second, what do I need to know that God is calling me to step into? Ask him and he'll tell you. God has a calling and a purpose for all of us. Are you using it in the way that he's called you to? Are you being faithful? And can you take, if not, that first step into whatever that thing may be? You know it. I don't know it. I'd say it all the time. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I'm not here to tell you what God's convicting your heart of or moving your heart toward. You know that. So ask him and he'll remind you. And then have the confidence to take the first step. And then once you take the first, the second, and the third, and the fourth, and watch what God will do. And the third is, where do I need to trust God more deeply? What are the places that you hold in your heart out of fear or out of control, or rather maybe insulation? Where is God calling you to trust him more deeply this year? And are you willing to see it through, to give him a shot? I'll leave you with this last thought. I had the incredible opportunity to walk through discipleship with 7 absolutely amazing men this year. We just ended the first step of the group in the middle of December. And in the middle of that study, really toward the end of that study, we studied Joshua holistically, the whole book. And there was one verse that stood out to me about Joshua's leadership as God was preparing them to move on to the promised land. And it's early on in Joshua, it's chapter 3. And he goes to all of the people. And he speaks about choosing which day or who you will serve that day and what you will do the next day. And the people who are ready to go and ready to move into the promised land and start that journey, he tells them, consecrate yourselves. For tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Church, consecrate yourselves. Join me in that. This next year is going to be amazing. It's going to have its hardships. It's going to have its challenges. But it's going to have its joys and its victories. And who knows what we'll be saying this time next year. God does. And if we can trust that, I promise you, it's going to be a great 2026. I love you, Trailside. With the deepest part of my heart, with all of me, I love you and care deeply for you. Outside of marrying my wife and having children, it's the greatest honor I have ever had in my life is to lead this church, to see God bless it, to counsel, to walk with families, to celebrate weddings and pregnancies and births and birthdays, to find true community and friendship. I can hardly believe what all God has done this year. And I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see what he does in 2026. Have a happy new year. Celebrate. Put old pains aside and step in with me to all that God has for us next year. And know that I can't wait to see you January 4th, 9 and 10:45 a.m. for our brand new series called Headphones, We're going to talk about communicating, biblical communication, how to do it well, how to put assumptions away, how to actually get to the core issues of our heart so that we can move forward in relationship and we can step into this new year well. I love you, church. Thank you for being you, for challenging me, for giving me a year to never forget and know that I'm here if you need me. Have a great Sunday. I love you so much. I'll see you in 2026.